a seducer, male or female, the number one quality for a seducer, male or female, is authenticity. But seduction has to have an element of danger to it. I'm being the evil seducer now here. Feeling of being vulnerable is a very positive attribute. Well, a lot of what modern life should involve is the ability to ignore certain things. Being masculine is seen as something negative. It's a trap for a man in seducing to always try and be so nice. Because sometimes a woman doesn't want somebody who's so nice. Because that kind of signals weakness. And so, our sexes are different. Biology does play a role in things. And women may be afraid of, but they're also intrigued by the male, by the masculine element in a man, right? And if your first signal is poetry and flowers, I'm so sensitive, I do yoga, blah, blah, blah. The nice thing is kind of a trap. Although for some women, it could work if they've been in totally abusive relationships, right? And you sense that. I'm talking about a very cold seducer. And you sense that, well, being very kind and nice in the first few weeks will really have them eating out of your hand. Not everything is so cut and dry in seduction work. You have to kind of tailor your strategies and tactics for the woman and her vulnerabilities. So the number one quality for a seducer, male or female, is authenticity. If you are genuinely nice, then that can work. If you can isolate them from that context, they become much more vulnerable to you, right? They don't have any friends, they don't have any support anymore, so they only can rely on you. And it's something that is done over time, right? So if you're confronting with a male seducer who is trying to turn you off from your friends, who's making it so that your best friend, I don't think you should trust her, I think she's up to something, right? He's trying to do things like that. He's trying to alienate you from your family. I think your parents were really awful to you, etc. is a very classic technique, because in your sense of isolation, you're much more vulnerable to getting support from this particular person.
That's kind of cool.
And so, one of the tactics that I talk about in the book is taking a person to another country or to another place where they, even on a holiday or a vacation, where they feel unsupported, where they feel a little bit alone and isolated for several weeks, kind of break down that element and make them want to turn to you for trust and support. So if you feel that a man is trying to isolate you in the subtlest ways from your friends, from your family, from the place where you live, and is criticizing that and trying to make you feel like, maybe I don't like these things, maybe that friend isn't really somebody I can trust, this is somebody you should be very, very suspicious of. It's a terrible tactic. It's trying to isolate you socially from the things that support you, and you should be very, very suspicious, and you should not give into that. They kind of isolate you mentally, where they make you question your own values and your own ideas. So their values and ideas now are the only ones you can rely upon. So one of the isolations is from the things that you and your brain kind of use to support you, that you rely upon, the values that you hold dear. If they can chip away at that, then you're even more isolated, you're even more vulnerable. Seduction involves, by nature, an element of transgressive and taboo. So the word itself has this kind of edge to it, where we're sort of attracted to it, but we're also a little bit afraid of it. It's like something, it could be very exciting, but there's also something a little bit evil about it, a little bit naughty. And if it didn't have those two elements, it wouldn't be this very powerful word that attracts us so much. People who pretend that they want everything to be so comfortable and easy and perfect in their life. We want everything to be good, everything to be sweet and angelic. But people are complicated. They desire the opposite of what they say they think they want, right? So underneath every one of our desires is secretly something else, secretly something maybe the opposite that we want, but we're not aware of it. And so if everything in the seduction was so smooth and wonderful and pleasant, he's giving you chocolates and roses and wonderful, it doesn't have that edge to it. We want an edge to
Got a
things
marathon
in life,
tonight.
otherwise we're not interested in it. It gives it something, a little bit, a whiff of danger. There's something we haven't talked about. But seduction has to have an element of danger to it. It has to be like being involved with this person. It's not like my life is at stake, but something potentially bad could happen, or there's an adventure involved that I'm not used to, where I could lose something that I value. And that element of danger is actually a spice in our life. So my view of people today is that we're too tight. We're too like this. We're too political. We're too like holding on to things. We're like, I told them
That down, let me get that shirt.
This is the new pruderies, our political correctness. Everything has to be this way. I'm so moral and righteous. This is what's right and that's what's wrong. And secretly, underneath it all, we actually yearn for the opposite. Because it's not natural for us to be so tight and wound up. The human being wants to loosen up. We want to laugh. We want to do the opposite of what's going on in society. We want things that are unconventional. We want things that are mysterious. We want things that are weird and strange. We don't want our lives to be so tight and controlled like everything is on media, where you say one wrong thing and 8 million people are after you, right? So an element of political incorrectness, of taboo, of something I'm not supposed to be interested in that person, but I am. How exciting. I think is a very, very important part of a seduction, because people are wound up way too tight these days, and they need a release. They need that release of something that they would never normally do. Well, now we're entering the last stages of the seduction, where you've been messing with the person psychologically. They've kind of had a back and forth dynamic with you, where they're very excited, they're intrigued, but they're pulling back because there's things you've done they're not sure about, and it's like a piece of metal that's getting weaker and weaker and weaker by all the bending back and forth, and they're on the verge of breaking. And so, injecting a little bit of pain at the end of this, towards this moment in the seduction, like, I'm gonna leave you, it's over, I'm done with you.
Go.
Man, that'll be very, very powerful, because there's been so much pleasure, so much excitement, so much interest involved, that at that moment that you're going to pull back, or that you do something kind of heartless, it's going to have a devastating effect on the other person. So I'm being the evil seducer now here, but giving that back and forth dynamic where you're leading them along, where it's very fun, it's pleasurable, it's exciting, but there are moments of doubt and pain, is really what hooks the other person and gets them completely into your lap. So that everything is pleasurable. It's not going to have the emotional impact. And if you put in, particularly the doses of pain, this kind of energy that exists in the world, where we have a need to connect to somebody
down.
With
That's the worst.
Outside of those power dynamics, right? Where there's a degree of equality, where we're drawn to each other, and we let go of the ego games, we let go of the playing, we kind of surmount our own physiology, our own hypothalamus.
Fucking knows what he's talking about.
We engage in this, I call it love sublime. And it involves the physical part. The sexual part is the trigger for it. Because when you have sex with someone, your body is suddenly permeable to their energy in a way that you cannot control. It produces all kinds of chemicals in the brain that are very powerful.
Oxytocin.
And oftentimes, that sense is too powerful, and you react, and you're afraid of it, and you pull back. But if you don't react, and you go further, then the mind also becomes permeable to the other person, and their energy, and their desire, and so then it kind of creates a spiraling effect where the physical and the mental connection reaches the state that I call love sublime. Now, it's an ideal. It doesn't really exist that much out there in the world today, but there are stories in history that illustrate it, and I believe it is a biological necessity for us to feel a deep, deep sense of connection. We normally ascribe that to religion, to God, etc. But I maintain the essence of love, the model for love, is between two human beings, straight or homo, doesn't matter. And that feeling of surmounting our own neurology, our own system, and entering this zone is deeply, deeply satisfying. We all want it. And it has to involve letting go of the power dynamics, and everything being equal. It's not that the other person is exactly like you. You recognize their difference. But as far as being worthy of attention, being worthy and respected, you leave all that other stuff outside. Feeling of being vulnerable is a very positive attribute that will infect not just your romantic relationships, but will infect you mentally. So, creative people are extremely vulnerable. They're extremely vulnerable to ideas. They're extremely vulnerable
I
to
got
the
something on
environment.
mind.
And closing yourself off into your own ego, into yourself. So the chapter is called Escape the Prison of the Ego. And you're kind of trapped inside of yourself, and your own thoughts and your own desires. And it's like a prison. It's enclosing you, and you want to escape somehow. And you escape through porn. But it doesn't lead to actually escaping. You want to be able to let go of the self and get out of this prison that you're in, right? And so it's a desire that we all have. And so I wanted to frame it as this incredibly positive dynamic that you can engage in. And the ability to be vulnerable to other people, to open yourself up and to say that, yeah, they might hurt me, but I'm strong enough to take it. And if they hurt me, I'll learn from it and I'll rebound. And I know that's a bit naive on my part, but I want you to at least have that feeling. So, when you're young, you're idealistic. At least a lot of young people are. And you have these dreams and these hopes. And to let go of this possibility, which is deeply pleasurable and deeply therapeutic to the human animal, as a social animal, it's like the highest form of interaction that we can have. But I'm advocating that sense of opening yourself up to the universe, to the cosmos itself, as an energy that permeates the world. The feeling of being closed inside of your ego, inside of yourself, I want to make it so you feel the pain of that. Because you don't really feel the pain of it. You feel like it's comfortable for you. But I want to make it clear to you that it's not comfortable. It's deeply, deeply painful. And it's disconnecting you from some of the best experiences you can have in life. So I have that strategy. The only other hope I have is in the human spirit itself. So a lot of this is being caused by social media, I believe, right? The kind of immediate gratification we can get in so many ways. And my hope is that young people get fed up and get just disgusted with all this disconnection and alienation in their life, and that they hunger from actually something more communal, more interactive, more real as opposed to virtual. And so that the human spirit can't be completely squashed by technology, etc. So I have that hope, because we've gone through these cycles before in history where people have become very invulnerable, very locked and closed, and suddenly there's an explosion, a creative explosion, like in the 1960s, like in the 1920s, like in 18th century Europe with Casanova, where seduction reached its kind of apogee, etc. So it has kind of swung back and forth between these moments where humans get incredibly closed and bitter and partisan, and everything's conflict and everyone's divisive, etc. And suddenly it goes in the opposite direction. I have hope in that possibility. Perhaps sweep that a little bit along that tide and see if I can have any effect. Well, a lot of what modern life should involve is the ability to ignore certain things. So you have to learn the art of what to ignore and what not to pay attention to, and understand that you're wired to see those kind of red alert buttons on Facebook or on Nextdoor or wherever they are. and it's negative. It's like a candy rush, and you have to avoid it. So men have a feminine side to them, which if you try to repress, it will come out in other ways. And women have a masculine side to them, is extremely real. It's very, very confusing times for both men and for women right now. Everything is just so fluid, and it's very, very tough, particularly if you're young. So young women are getting this idea that everything should be equal and that women should have, and then of course it's right, should be paid the same, should have the same career opportunities. There should be no prejudice or harassment or anything. But at the same time, on social media, it's all about looking perfect, and looks are incredibly important. And if you're not hot, you're in terrible trouble. And a lot of young girls are extremely confused by this. They're getting mixed signals. And boys are even in perhaps even worse circumstance, where being masculine is seen as something negative. So we don't have any ideals out there anymore of what constitutes a good positive form of femininity and a good positive form of masculinity. In fact, we even think that there shouldn't be anything like that. There's no such thing as being masculine, feminine, whatever. It's very, very confusing. And so, I think of masculine traits that I think are very positive, that should be out there to kind of counteract the sort of Andrew Tate seduction that a lot of young men are falling for. And it's a kind of an inner strength where you're sort of in control of your emotions. You're not invulnerable, etc., etc. You can take criticism. You can take, you can have moments of failure and you'll bounce back. But you have a kind of inner resilience and a kind of inner strength, a kind of a quiet calm that I think used to be exemplified in movie icons like the Gary Cooper type thing, right? And that kind of sense of inner calmness where you're not hysterical, you're not getting upset about everything that happens, where you have a kind of an inner strength and a confidence, and you can withstand kind of what Ryan Holiday talks about, a lot about with stoicism. You can withstand all of the hardships in life, but you have that citadel within you is a very, very powerful form of masculinity, as opposed to it's all about sleeping with a lot of women, having really fast cars, being abusive and being a bully, etc., etc. These are signs of weakness, of insecurity. And to be masculine should be a sense of security and inner confidence and inner strength, right? And that's what we should venerate in our culture, and we should have icons like that.
Fuck, we really should.
It doesn't mean that there's no role for men who are not masculine,
No
who have
fucking
more of the feminine
role for
virtues.
kids.
There's definitely a role for that. And, we see a lot of that in all sorts of arenas of life. And then there should be a positive model for women, where instead of their appearances being judged by their appearances and having to conform to the ideals of what's hot
See
or
it
not,
on the
it's
screen.
about being incredibly powerful and competent and have expertise in being really successful in your career, and as opposed to being continually judged by your appearances, which is very damaging. So, and I think a lot of people just don't have that, and they're very lost. And so, I don't know what the answer is to that. I can't really produce that out of thin air, but I wish I could. As you may or may not know, I wrote a book called The 48 Laws of Power, and in many interviews I've discussed and analyzed particular laws in depth. And so here is a compilation of some of those best moments which have gone into the various laws, the 48 Laws of Power. I hope you enjoy it. That feeling of having no control and how miserable it is. Related to that is the feeling that I'm trapped in this role in life that is
Do a
not of my
little
own choosing. That people see
Robert
me
Greene?
as
I'm
a
down.
writer, a secretary,
It's been a
whatever.
while, actually.
And it's not what I want to be. And that's how everybody judges me. You feel trapped with no power or control. The opposite of that is this feeling that you can be whatever you want. You can recreate yourself. You can suddenly have a different
Green.
persona. You can change your personality.
By the way, one of the actual other laws is you can act like the
It's an old one.
already. So in a
Just
sense, I
new.
found those two working together.
Yo, master.
If two people are genuinely meant to be together, there is one clear pattern that always appears. Many people grow up believing destiny is effortless,
I don't like-
that it looks like instant
I like the ones where they do the AI voice. It's better. This is not gonna be it because it's got the same thing. It's always empath shit though.
There's a truth about twin flames that goes against. There exists.
So I gotta get the ones where it's him. Here we go.
Housekeeper?
Yes.
No children or grandchildren with you?
No, those are usually we are. But I have plenty of them in the surroundings.
Do they come to see you
I can't hear
often?
that.
Oh, yes.
How many grandchildren?
It's nice.
Oh,
It's
19.
quaint.
And great grandchildren?
Eight, I think 8. And I suppose one is on the
Son
way.
of a bitch.
And do you enjoy having them?
Well, of course it's nice to feel such a living crowd out of yourself.
Are they afraid of you, do you think?
I don't think so. If you would know my grandchildren, you wouldn't think so. Yeah.
What?
They steal my things. Even my hat that belongs to me, they stole the other day.
It's douchebag.
Relation is closely connected with realizing the fallibility of your parents.
Yes, you would say so.
Now, what
But
about
I realized that I had fear of my mother, but not during the day. There she was quite known to me and predictable, but in the night I had fear of my mother.
And can you remember why? Can you remember what that
I had not the slightest idea why.
What about your school days now? Were you happy at school as a school?
In the beginning I was very happy to have companions, you know, because before I had been very lonely. We lived in the country and I had no brother and no sister. My sister was born very much later when I was 9 years old. And so I was used to be alone, but I missed it. I missed company. And in school it was wonderful to have company. But soon, you know, in a country school, naturally, I was far ahead. And then I began to be bored.
What sort of religious
We're gonna put over
upbringing did
here.
your father give you?
Oh, we were Swiss reformed.
And did he make you attend church
Oh,
regularly?
well, that was quite natural. Everybody went to church on
Yes.
Sunday.
And did you believe in God?
Oh, yes.
Do you now believe in God?
Now, difficult to answer. I know. I don't need to believe. I know.
Well, turning to the next staging point in your life, what made you decide to become a doctor?
That was in the first place a merely opportunistic choice. Originally, I wanted to be an archaeologist,
Alright.
Assyriology, Egyptology, or something of the sort. I hadn't the money. The study was too expensive. So my second love then belonged to nature, particularly zoology. And when I began my studies, I inscribed in the so-called philosophical faculty too.
I'm not tracking this. That's terrible.
But then I soon saw that it was my the career that it was before me would make a school myself. I never thought I had any chance to get unemployed because we had no money at all. And then I saw that didn't suit my expectations. You know, I didn't want to become a schoolmaster. Teaching was not just what I was looking for. And so I remember that my grandfather has been a doctor, and I
What's that?
knew that when I was
Just
studying
wrote some
medicine, I had a chance to study natural science and to become a doctor, and the doctor can develop. You see, he can
My
have a
balls.
practice, he can do, you can choose his scientific interests more or less. And otherwise, I would have more chance than being a schoolmaster. Also, the idea of doing something useful with human beings appealed to me.
And did you, when you decided to become a doctor, have difficulty in getting the training at school and in passing the exams?
I should see some shit.
I-
Other ones.
Particularly
No, I'm not.
had a difficulty with certain teachers that didn't believe that I could write a decent thesis. I remember one case where the teacher had the habit to discuss the papers written by the pupils, and he took the best first.
It should just be. That should be it,
He went
right?
through the whole
That looks probably better.
number
Nobody's even
of,
seen it yet.
the pupils, and I didn't appear, and I was badly troubled over it. And I thought, well, it is impossible that my thesis can be that bad. And when he had finished, he said, there is still one paper left over, and that is the one by Jung. That would be by far the best paper if it hadn't been copied. He has just copied it somewhere, stolen. You are a thief, you. And if I knew where you have stolen it,
We're trying to be
I
fancy
could bring
here.
you out of school. And I was mad. And,
Let's get smart with it.
This is the one thesis where I have worked the most, because the theme was interesting, in contradistinction, to the other things which are not at all interesting to me. And then he said, you are a liar, and if you can prove that you have stolen that thing somewhere, then you get out of school. Now that was a very serious thing to me, because what else then, you see? And I hated that fellow, and that was the only man I could have killed, if I had met him once at the dark corner. I would have shown him something of what I could do.
Did you often have violent thoughts about people when you were young?
No, not exactly. Only when
Do
I got
something,
mad.
do it. Ayn Rand.
Then I beat them up.
And did you
It's,
often get mad?
Not so often, but then for good.
You were
Yeah.
very
I'm not
strong
one of these guys,
figure.
by the way. I
Yes,
fucking love life.
And
I'm not a doomer.
Reared in the country with those peasant boys, it was a rough kind of life. And I would have been capable
Oski.
for
I know I got a lot, but I love
I was a bit
the,
afraid of it.
the seduction. Right?
So I rather tried to avoid those critical situations because I didn't trust myself. Once I was attacked by about 7 boys, and I got mad. And I
One,
took
I'm gonna do this one instead.
and just swang him around with his
It's a
legs,
long one. For my LinkedIn audience.
Part 1. The seductive character. There are 9 seducer types in the world. Each type has a particular character trait that comes from deep within and creates a seductive pull. Sirens have an abundance of
Looks
sexual
nice.
energy and no
More of a shadow though.
Rakes insatiably adore the opposite sex, and their desire is infectious. Ideal lovers have an aesthetic sensibility that they apply to romance. Dandies like to play with their image, creating a striking and androgynous allure. Naturals are spontaneous and open. Coquettes are self-sufficient with a
I'm
fascinating
here to say
allure.
things, but it's not let me do that.
Charmers want and know how to please. They are social creatures. Charismatics have an unusual confidence in themselves.
Yeah.
Stars are ethereal and envelop
This could be so
themselves.
sick right here if we figure this out too.
The siren. A man is
Shadow.
often secretly oppressed by the role he has to play, by always having to be responsible, in control, and rational. The siren is the ultimate male fantasy figure because she offers no release
from the limitations of his life. In her presence, which is always heightened and sexually charged, the male feels transported to a world of pure pleasure. She is dangerous, and in pursuing her energetically, the man can lose control over himself, something he yearns to do.
Significant. I don't want to like do it all every time. I hate it.
She lures men by cultivating a particular appearance and manner. In a world where women are often too timid to project such an image, learn to take control of the male libido by embodying his strengths. The rake. A woman never quite feels desired and appreciated enough. She wants attention, but a man is too often distracted and unresponsive.
He's still thinking.
The rake is a great female
Hi.
fantasy. When he desires a woman, brief though that moment may be, he will go to the ends of the earth for her. He may be disloyal, dishonest, and amoral, but that only adds to his appeal. Unlike the normal, cautious, the rake is delightfully unrestrained, a slave to his love of women. There is the added lure of his reputation. So many women have succumbed to him that has to be released. Words are a woman's weakness, and the rake is a master of seductive language. Stir a woman's repressed longings by adapting the rake's mix of danger and pleasure.
You have to
The
put that
ideal
in
lover. Most people have dreams in
fucking
their
that
youth
up.
that get shattered or
But-
worn down.
I'm actually I'm gonna do Napoleon Hill. I need it.
Because his purpose had given meaning to effort. When
It's
you work
true,
under a
yeah,
definite
I can't
aim,
listen to it for too long.
failure becomes education. The
All my shit,
undisciplined man
they give the
tries to
same
find
shit
meaning
over
in
and over
motion.
again.
The purposeful man finds motion in meaning.
I don't
One
know.
races in circles, the other walks directly to his goal. The one who wanders through many
Like,
pursuits
again,
never
dude,
excels
okay.
in any. The one who devotes
I
himself
definitely
to
need
one aim
something
becomes
new,
a
some
master.
new
The
content.
world bows to mastery because it recognizes certainty. You cannot think clearly until you decide clearly. The mind resists instruction until it knows its destination. The moment you choose a definite purpose,
I love all this
your
positive
thoughts
shit.
begin to obey like
I'm almost
soldiers under
like I'm
command.
even
Fear
beyond that.
weakens because fear thrives on uncertainty. Decision dissolves doubt. The man who knows what he wants rarely feels anxiety. His mind is too busy creating direction. Purpose awakens imagination. Once the destination is chosen, infinite intelligence begins sending ideas, people, and opportunities suited to it. What you call coincidence is only the result of definiteness, drawing support from unseen law.
That's good shit.
If you have ever held a single aim with passion, you know this truth. The whole world begins to conspire in its favor. You must test every action by one question. Does this move me nearer to my aim?
They definitely, the shorts are better
At the same time,
every time.
something else, quite independent, happens that portrays just that thought. Yeah. For instance, just so I speak of a red car, and at that moment, a red car comes here. Yeah. Now, I hadn't seen it. It was impossible because of the activity. In this moment, the red car appears. Because now this here, because he was the remarks that we made about the red car. It's like, this is a miracle that the red car appears. It's not in this chart yet. But this chart is happening. More the chart around.
So I just want to like drag it. I have whisper too. I can just get.
At the same time, something else, quite independent, happens that portrays just that thought. Yeah. For instance, just so I speak of
I'm gonna do
a
it.
red car,
I'm sick of
and
this.
at that moment, a red car comes here. Yeah. Now, I haven't seen it. It was impossible of the activity. In this moment, the red car appears. Because
buddy.
now this
This
car
chrome.
has appeared because he was But these chances happen more than chance around.
But it's really good.
And that shows something. See, I have a certain thought. At the same time, something
But what I want to use it for is not taking notes.
happens that portrays just that thought. Yeah. For instance, just so I speak of a red
That's pretty cool.
car, and a
Yeah.
red car comes here. Yeah. Now
Fuck.
I haven't seen it. Was impossible because it was behind the building.
It's my shit too.
The red car.
Go back to mine.
Because say now this car has appeared because he was
This'll fuck up the mic.
It's like this is a miracle that the red car is. It's not
It's a miracle it's a red car.
but these chances happen more than chance allows. And that shows something. See, I have a certain thought. At the same time, something
This screen just sucks too. Like I almost need a.
that portrays just that thought. Yeah. For instance, just so I speak of a red car,
What does that
and
mean?
at that moment, a red car comes here.
You're like, what are these
Now
supposed to
I
be?
haven't seen it. It was impossible because it was behind the building. In this moment, the red car appears.
Every time I do that too.
Now this car has appeared because he was.
Here's what I do.
Double box and he made about the red car. It's like how
We're gonna get that.
that the red car is. It's not
I'm so sorry about that.
but these jobs happen more than chance around. And
That's the problem too. Those
See, I have
too many browser windows.
at the same time something else quite independent happens that portrays just that
That's crazy.
thought. Yeah. For instance, just so I speak of a red car,
So Daryl, so sorry.
and at that moment a red car
Can't turn it off.
comes here. Yeah. Now I haven't seen it. It was impossible because it was behind
Well, I can't find
in
the.
this moment. The red car
That's why I'm building this thing.
because say now this car has appeared
So I'm gonna show.
because he was double box and he made about the red car. It's like this is a miracle.
I think I just have to
It's not
do it.
just chance. But these chances